Welcome back to NFL Nexus. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating scenario. We are looking at one of the biggest challenges of the entire 2026 NFL Draft. How in the world do the Atlanta Falcons, a team with pretty big goals, try to build for their future when they are essentially walking into this thing with one hand tied behind their back? They have incredibly limited resources, which means every single decision, every pick, is going to be under a microscope. So this isn't just another draft preview, folks. This is a look at a high-stakes strategic scramble.
Okay, so here's our game plan for breaking this whole thing down. First up, we've got to lay out the core problem, right? We'll look at the Falcons' serious lack of draft capital. Then, the fun part begins. We're going to play GM and walk through what a perfect pick scenario might look like, hunting for value on day 2 and then digging for those high-upside guys on day 3. And finally, we'll step back, look at the whole class, and decide if this strategic scramble can actually be turned into a big win.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, limited draft capital. Before we can even start talking about specific players, we have to get a grip on the huge challenge facing General Manager Ian Cunningham. The moves he made before this draft even started have created this high-stakes puzzle that is absolutely going to define their entire draft weekend.
This right here, this is the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? Think about it. When all the biggest names, the premier can't-miss prospects, are flying off the board on Thursday night, the Falcons' war room is just going to have to sit there and watch. For a GM like Ian Cunningham, who's in his first draft really running the show, the pressure is just immense. Every single pick he does have, it basically has to be a hit. There's almost zero margin for error here.
And this number says it all. 5. That's it. Just 5 total picks to inject this roster with young, cheap, and talented players. Now, to give you some perspective, most teams are looking to add 7, 8, sometimes even 10 or more rookies through the draft. So coming to the party with only 5 invitations, that is a major, major handicap, and it forces a complete shift in philosophy. You can't just sit back and take the best player available. You have to have a laser-focused, needs-based approach.
So you're probably asking, why are they in this mess? Well, the thing is, these picks weren't just lost into thin air. They were invested. That huge first-rounder, that was the price they paid to move up for a top-tier talent, the edge rusher James Pierce Jr., a guy they believe can totally transform their pass rush. And that 5th-rounder was a piece of the package to go get safety Xavier Watts, another player they zeroed in on to be an immediate starter. So in a way, they've already pre-drafted 2 key guys. But now in 2026, the bill has come due, and it's left their draft cupboard looking pretty empty.
And that brings us to Section 2. Now, this is where the action finally kicks off for Atlanta. Because they don't have a first-round pick, Friday night, day 2 of the draft, it basically becomes the Falcons' Super Bowl. Rounds 2 and 3, they aren't just important, they are literally everything. This is the spot where their entire 2026 draft class is going to be won or lost. No pressure.
Okay, so after what feels like an eternity of waiting, the Falcons are finally on the clock at pick number 48. With their very first selection, they just can't afford to take a flyer on a project. Nope. They need a guy who can step right in and make a difference. And when you look at their roster, one of the most glaring holes is a powerful, game-wrecking force right in the middle of their defensive line. If he's on the board, the perfect pick here might just be Kristen Miller, a defensive tackle from right down the road at the University of Georgia. The guy comes from a program that's like an NFL-ready defender factory, and he fits exactly what the Falcons need, a player who can make a real impact on all 3 downs.
Now, just take a look at this. What really jumps off the page is that one number, 321 pounds. Let's be real, that is a massive human being to plug into the center of your defense. In a league that keeps getting smaller and faster, having a true anchor who can just eat up double teams and blow up the run on 1st and 2nd down, that's priceless. He immediately gives Atlanta the beef they need to control the line of scrimmage.
And this quote right here, it just perfectly illustrates his true value. It gets right to the heart of why he'd be such a fantastic pick at 48. That high floor part, that's the 321-pound run stuffer we were just talking about. That's his day 1 job. But the really exciting part, the part that gets you dreaming, is his potential as an interior pass rusher. Getting pressure right up the gut is a quarterback's absolute worst nightmare. And if Miller can develop that part of his game, he goes from being just a good player to a great one. He's a safe pick with a ton of upside.
All right, let's move a little deeper into day 2. We're at pick number 79 in the 3rd round. After locking down the defensive line, the board really starts to open up.
This is a huge decision point where the Falcons could go in, a bunch of different directions to fill the multiple needs they still have on their roster.
And just take a look at this wish list. You see a little group of defensive linemen and edge rushers, which tells you that building up the trenches is still a big priority. You see a cornerback in there, Malik Muhammad, because hey, you can never have enough good corners. But what really stands out to me is the sheer number of wide receivers. This is a huge clue that the third round could be the absolute sweet spot to find an impact pass catcher and add another weapon to this offense. So, out of that whole talented group, our perfect pick emerges. Ted Hurst, a local kid from Georgia State. What makes Hurst so tantalizing is that rare blend of traits he has. I mean, it is not often that you find a big-bodied receiver who also has legitimate, certified 4.4 speed. This guy is a walking, talking matchup nightmare.
So with a player like Hurst, you have to balance the incredible physical gifts with the risk involved. It's a classic gamble. On one side of the coin, you have a size and speed combo that you just can't teach. The guy is a proven deep threat. But on the other side, he's making a massive leap in the level of competition. Coming from Valdosta State and then Georgia State, the corners he's going to face on Sundays are a completely different species. There's going to be a learning curve, for sure, and he'll need to really polish his route running to get open against NFL-level talent.
But this number right here brilliantly shows you what he does best. If you want to know what Ted Hurst's superpower is, look no further. Over the last 2 seasons, he led all of FBS football with 34 catches of more than 20 yards. No, that is not a typo. He is a certified, bona fide big play machine. A player like that completely changes the math for a defense. Safeties have to respect him and play deeper, which opens up everything underneath for the running game and the other receivers. He is the definition of a field stretcher.
All right, welcome to day 3 of the draft. In section 3, we're digging into rounds 4 through 7. The whole vibe on Saturday is just different. You're not really looking for that day 1 franchise-changing superstar anymore. This is all about finding the backbone of your team. Guys with high upside, special teams demons, and players who can fill specific roles and maybe, just maybe, develop into key starters down the road.
Kicking off day 3 for the Falcons is pick number 122 in the 4th round. So they've added pieces to the D-line and the receiver room. Now the focus swings back over to the defense. In today's NFL, you absolutely need linebackers who can do it all: run, cover, and blitz. And this is a great spot in the draft to find that kind of modern-day athlete. And the ideal target here could very well be Anthony Hill Jr. from the University of Texas. This guy is the absolute epitome of what coaches are looking for in a modern linebacker. He's got the size, 6'2", 238 pounds, to be physical against the run, but he's such a great athlete that he can stay on the field for all 3 downs, which, as you know, is crucial in the pass-happy NFL. His final season down at Texas really puts that incredible versatility we're talking about on full display. He wasn't just a tackling dummy, although 70 tackles is solid. But look at the other numbers: 4 sacks. That shows you he can get after the quarterback as a blitzer. 3 forced fumbles and 2 interceptions. That tells you he has a real nose for the football. He wasn't just a guy who was on the field. He was a playmaker who actively created turnovers.
And here's the best part. The tape totally matches the testing. As you can see from his combine numbers, his production wasn't some kind of fluke. A 4.51 second 40-yard dash at almost 240 pounds? That is blazing speed. But look at the explosion numbers: a 37-inch vertical and a 10-foot 5-inch broad jump. Those are elite, top-of-the-line results that just confirmed the explosive athlete you see making plays all over the field on Saturdays.
And this quote is the key takeaway for a 4th-round pick. It perfectly nails the value proposition. The upside, the absolute ceiling if he puts it all together: a Pro Bowl caliber player. That's a home run. But his floor, his baseline contribution from day 1, a strong rotational player who can contribute on defense and on special teams right away. That's a double. Getting that kind of player in the 4th round is exactly how smart GMs build deep competitive rosters.
Okay, now we're getting late into the draft, way down in the 6th round. At this point, you're hunting for players with a very specific, translatable skill, or maybe the intelligence and versatility to fill a couple of different roles. For the Falcons, adding depth behind their star tight end Kyle Pitts is a sneaky need, especially a guy with a different kind of skill set.
And a guy like Riley Nowakowski from Indiana fits that mold perfectly. Let's be crystal clear. You're not drafting him to be the next Kyle Pitts. You're drafting him for a very specific job. His immediate role, which you see there in step 2, is to be a reliable blocking tight end, a tough guy who helps you win in the run game. The upside, step 3, is that in Kevin Stefanski's offensive system, he might just develop into a reliable pass catcher too. It's a really smart, low-risk pick that adds immediate depth and fills a specific need.
And now for the final pick.
Mr. Irrelevant for the Atlanta Falcons at pick 231. With your very last selection, the goal is pretty simple. Take a shot on a player with some really intriguing physical traits who, with enough time and good coaching, could maybe develop into a valuable piece down the line. It's all about finding that lottery ticket.
Washington's Carver Willis fits that mold perfectly. His primary strength is as a mauler in the run game. But what makes him so interesting this late in the draft is his versatility. And that last bullet point there, that's a big deal. The Falcons have already shown real interest, bringing him in for a top 30 visit. That means he was one of only 30 prospects the team could bring to their own facility for in-person interviews and meetings. That's a significant sign of interest. And you know what they say, where there's smoke, there's often fire.
And that brings us to our final section, assessing the haul. Look, we've walked through the picks one by one, but a draft class isn't just about the individuals, it's about the group. To really judge the strategy, you have to look at it as a whole. And when you step back and see these 5 players together, a very clear, very deliberate plan starts to come into focus. When you lay it all out like this, you can see how this proposed haul addresses key needs all over the roster. They get that powerful anchor for the D-line in Christian Miller, they add an explosive big play weapon for the offense in Ted Hurst, they inject some elite athleticism and playmaking at linebacker with Anthony Hill Jr., and they build out quality depth on offense with a blocking tight end in Nowakowski and a versatile lineman in Carver Willis. And here's the most important point of all. This hypothetical draft, it wasn't some scattershot approach of just taking the best name left on the board. No way. Given how few picks they had, it had to be a targeted acquisition of players with specific, high-value traits. From Miller's raw power to Hurst's game-breaking speed to Hill's all-around athleticism, every single pick was made with a clear purpose, trying to squeeze every last drop of potential out of each selection. And so, this leaves us with the final, ultimate question. On paper, this 5-player class looks like a huge success, right? A masterclass in navigating a really tough situation. But as we all know, draft classes are not won on paper. The real test, that begins now. Only time is going to tell if these calculated risks and targeted traits actually pay off on the field and turn this strategic scramble into a true draft day victory for the Atlanta Falcons.
And that's our look at how the Falcons could tackle a very, very tricky 2026 draft. Hey, if you enjoyed this strategic deep dive, please make sure you subscribe to NFL Nexus and like this video. It really helps us out. But most importantly, we want to hear from you down in the comments. What do you think of this 5-player haul? Is this a draft day victory in your eyes? Or would you have gone in a completely different direction? Let us know below.
And hey, you can help support the channel by checking out our new coloring books. They are perfect for kids, grandkids, and honestly, even for adults. It's a great way to unwind and show some team spirit. You can find them by using the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on your screen right now. Thanks again for watching NFL Nexus.